Hey everyone, it's Mr. Southerd coming at you with a video on Unit 6, Lesson 7 in Comp Sci Principles. We're going to work on loops. So here's the fun part. I'm going to zoom in a bit. We don't need this guy. So basically, we already talked about this in class, but I want to make sure it's clear. A loop is used to have something run until it can't anymore. So the first thing we need to do is we'll learn about while loops. So I'll walk you through kind of what's happening here, and then we'll go from there. In terms of while loops, so we're going to go ahead and essentially we need to always have a counter that counts how many times I'm running this loop. So what this is saying is while the counter is less than 10, so basically we're going to run up until the 9th time. So starting from 0, we're going to run from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and we're going to go ahead and produce the word counter a bunch of times, okay? And then every time I'm going to produce the word counter, after I do it, then I'm going to display, or then I'm going to go ahead and add 1 to the count. So just to show you how this works, let's go ahead and run this thing. All right, so you can see the numbers pop up here. Okay. Now, if I really want to switch it up, instead of doing this counter equals counter plus 1, I can go ahead and delete all that actually and do a plus plus. And that's going to do the same thing and essentially increment is what it's called, and add 1 to the counter. So if I reset and run, same thing's going to happen, right? So nothing changes, no errors. If I want to go ahead and run this, up to 99 times, I could do just, if I say less than 100, then it'll run up to the 100th time. It's going to keep going, going, going. Eventually it'll get there, right? So that's that. So that's kind of the quick play around with that. Let's see what else is happening here. So you get to go through each one of these and kind of play with the while loop a little bit. And I want to get to the part where it actually gets kind of interesting. Let's see, this one it? I think there should be 2 modules that I want to show you. Here we go. Looking for doubles in the countdown. So when we're looking for doubles, if you roll dice, right, you're going to get some number from 1 through 6 on each of those dice. And then a double is defined as something that's the same number, right? So if I roll a 3 and the other dice rolls a 3, then congratulations, we have rolled doubles. So how are we going to do this? I'll show you some of the code, but I'd like you to actually work on this yourself and let me know when you have problems. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of move things around a bit to try and get that debug console there. And that's that. Okay, so for this one, they want us to basically roll a pair of dice 100 times, okay, and then keep track of those 100 simulated rolls, and then go ahead and tell me when or how many doubles are rolled. That's what they really want to get at. So again, we're going to roll a dice 100 times, right? And then we're going to go ahead and show like, hey, when do we actually roll doubles? So I'll get you going on this one just to get started so you kind of have where to go, and I'll let you know where some of the problems might be. So for to do number 1, first thing I'm going to do is I need to create a variable to keep track the number of doubles that are rolled. So every time I roll a double, let's say the first 3 times miraculously I get 3 doubles, which is possible, right? Low probability event, but possible. Let's say I roll a 3-3, a 4-4, and a 5-5. Well, that's 3 doubles. So I need to count that somehow. I see that they already have a variable called counter here, but it's being used in the while loop. So that's a counter like, hey, I'm just counting how many times have we gone through this thing. So that's not going to be helpful. So what I'm going to do is also every time I basically have something, I'm going to go ahead and store it somewhere, right? So if I roll a 3 and a 3 or a 4 and a 4 or a 5 and a 5, I need to store it somewhere. So what I ended up doing was I used the list, right? And I went ahead and I made a list called, I just call it doubles counter, which is not typing. Doubles counter. So it's going to count how many times double is, and it's going to store it here in this array. And then I want to count how long this list is, basically. So let's say all 100 times I roll doubles, right? Which is highly unlikely, but let's say it happens. Well, then I can store every time that there's a double, store that value, and then at the end I can just have the code spit me out how many are in this list, and then we've got it. So let me show you how to do that. I'm sure that there are certainly other ways to do this. It's just the way I pursued it. Okay, to do number 2. We need to go ahead and set up the conditional so that the while loop happens for 100 times, basically. So how I'm going to do that is you already have the code that's going to say, hey, roll dice 1, roll dice 2, and produce a random number. So it's going to happen one time, right? Or it's going to happen an infinite amount of times right now. But I need to set some sort of limit. So I'm going to easiest way to do is just show text. And then I want this thing to be less than or equal to 100, right? Because once I hit 100, then I want this thing to stop, right? On the 100th time. Okay, so then we got roll 1, roll 2. That doesn't change. And then we got counter plus plus. Now, here's the interesting part. To do number 3. Add code that checks to see if doubles were rolled. If doubles were rolled, update the variable that is tracking the number of doubles. While I'm doing this, let's go ahead and update it's the doubles counter, I think it was. All right, so that's my list. Okay, and then what I'm gonna do is, well, this is an if statement, right? It's saying, hey, if we do roll doubles, then go ahead and store somewhere. So I'm gonna bring this if right under here before I do the counter. Okay, so the counter should always be, when I do the plus plus is always happening at the end of the while loop. So as I'm exiting the while loop, I needed to hit one more up on the counter. So for this one, if we're gonna say, if that, basically what I'm trying to say is if that roll 1, right? If roll 1 is equal to roll 2, then I want you to go ahead and add 1 to my variable. And more specifically, to add something to the list, I need this append item thingamabobber, right? So we're going to add to the doubles counter. What are we adding, you might ask? Well, we're going to go ahead and add whatever roll 1 was. So let me just walk you through my logic there. So if I roll a 3 on one dice and a 3 on the second dice, they're both going to be 3. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to keep track of like, well, so the only time this append item is going to get triggered is if the rolls are the equivalent numbers. Okay, so if I roll doubles, then it's going to add whatever number was for roll 1 to that. Because I'm curious, like what number was actually rolled. And at the end of the day, I'm just going to count how many things are in that list, and then boom, I have some sort of production. So let's show you what this looks like. So if I run it, I can see it running. You can see that my list is being populated, right? So we're rolling, right? We got different numbers. Look, so every time we're rolling doubles, you can see that's adding to my list, right? So I have 3 elements in the list now. And it's going to keep going. There's a 4th one, 5th one, right? So it's showing it. And you'll see the length of the list right now is 5. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this. Okay. So I got all that to work. And then finally, what I need to do is I'm going to go ahead and produce the number of doubles that are rolled out of 100. Okay. And what I'm going to produce is I just need to produce the length of the doubles counter. So I'm going to go ahead and go to show text because I want to add to the end of this, right? I'm going to go ahead and use a concatenation, which is the plus sign. And let's go ahead and do the doubles counter. Whoops. And if you do dot length, that'll tell me how long that list is. Okay, so it's going to tell me how long that list is. So now I'll put on super rabbit speed, run it. And do you see number of doubles rolled out is 16. And if I'm curious on what was rolled twice, well, there you go, 5, 4, 1, 6, 6. So it's showing you the list there. And I have exactly the 16. So there we have it. So I hope this helps, and we'll do some more work in class.